Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and if you want to see the Bitcoin Trojan horse starting to show its face, look no further than Peter Thiel.
But then there, probably the part where I'm less convinced of is this question of the sort of ideological founding vision of Bitcoin or these cryptocurrencies as sort of a, cypherpunk, crypto-anarchist, libertarian, anti-centralized government thing. This is always, the line.
Isn't that what got you interested in the first place?
That's what I thought was terrific about it. And then, the question is, does it really work that way? Or, has that thread somehow gotten lost? And so when people in the FBI tell me that they'd much rather have criminals use Bitcoin than $100 bills, it suggests that maybe it's not quite working the way it was supposed to.
Have you sold any of your Bitcoin?
I still hold some. There are all these ways I didn't buy as much as I should have, I'm not sure it's going to go up that dramatically from here.
From here?
Yeah, I think we got the ETF edition, and I don't know who else buys it quickly from here.
Some interesting investment advice. That actually surprised me because I don't think I've heard you. I thought you were still all in.
I still have a small position. It probably still can go up some, but it's going to be a volatile, bumpy ride, and I had a dual reason. One was this sort of, ideological, decentralized future of computing world that I really do believe in, really believe would be better. And it seemed like the perfect vehicle for that for such a long time. And I am just much less convinced of that. And so
Interesting.
So maybe Larry Fink with the BlackRock ETF surrendered to the forces, the anti-ESG forces, or maybe it's more like Bitcoin's been co-opted by them, and I worry it was more the latter.
Okay, different question.
Folks, it's pretty simple to figure all this out if you really look at it. It just is. Stuart Alderati, for all the SEC has done to muddy the waters with its inconsistent legal theories, the courts are seeing right through them. The Binance decision last night, long but absolutely worth a read. And then he goes on, Judge Torres in SEC versus Ripple got it right. XRP in and of itself is not a security. Gary Gensler, Jay Clayton, Bill Hinman, Gary Gensler, they all knew that XRP in and of itself was not a security. The lawsuit was the weapon. We've always known that. And that's the most disgusting thing about it, folks. It's all about interoperability, folks.
We're not looking at a single asset future or a single chain future. The future is going to be a multi-asset, multi-chain future. And what you use will depend on the use case, right? And the key is going to be interoperability. You need to be able to move assets across chains, right? So a good example is, the Ripple stablecoin will be issued on the XRP ledger, but on Ethereum as well. So that allows you to use, the speed, the efficiency, the low cost of the XRP ledger, bridge that with the native smart contract capabilities of Ethereum. And that allows you more utility, right? So I think it just comes down to use cases. For some use cases, CBDCs will make the most sense. For some use cases, stablecoins will make the most sense. And when it comes to an interoperable and cross-border aspect, we feel that some assets like XRP will also make sense.
So you're not just insisting on XRPs, but rather make it compatible with
It's about the interoperability.
Wow.
It's about the interoperability. Now, if you've never heard this one, this is 51 seconds worth your time.
So the paths are leading to some form of a digital currency. So do you think it's coincidence that we're now at the exact same moment seeing executive orders and mandates come out. And in it, there is talk of a coming Federal Reserve digital dollar.
No, it's par for the course as far as I am concerned. I mean, how far along they are, I'm not certain. I have looked into this fairly deeply. There is some talk of going on the back of, let's say, an XRP or some other currency that's out there now that's functioning well and has been basically tested, and then putting a CBDC on top of that. That certainly could be achieved. And if it were, it could expedite how quickly this comes to the fore. I think.
Ooh. Look at this from Ashley Prosper. You know, I'm not an attorney, but I do know in the law that fraud kind of usurps everything. If there's fraud, it kind of throws everything else out the window. Look what Ashley Prosper says. Ethereum's ICO could still be a case in the making. Here's how the statute of limitations might be extended. Fraudulent concealment. If key participants in the Ethereum ICO disguise their identities and engage in activities to hide their involvement, the statute of limitations could be told until their identities were uncovered. Continuing offenses. If the proceeds from the ICO were laundered through a series of transactions over several years, the statute of limitations might start from the last transactions. 3, international money laundering. If funds from the ICO were moved through foreign banks and laundered in multiple jurisdictions, the investigation might take longer, potentially extending the statute of limitations due to the complexity and the need for international cooperation. All 3 involved KYC, AML, money laundering violations which would come under FinCEN, and potential tax evasion, which would come under the IRS. Both agencies went after Ripple for far less than what was sold during the Ethereum ICO. So freaking true. Look at Wheezy here. Wheezy always comes out of nowhere with some juicy stuff. Are you still?
We think the adoption is strong and actually only.
Are you still doubting that the Ripple lawsuit was an attack to hold it down while the rest tried to catch up? Here's Tyrone Laban of JP Morgan speaking about Onyx. I also know of something that happened in December 2020. Now listen.
So we have clients globally. We have large asset managers like BlackRock. We're doing about $1 to $2 billion a day of tokenized flow through the platform. We launched in 2020, December 2020, and since then we've done just on $900 billion of tokenized trading through this particular platform. So we think the adoption is strong and actually only increasing.
And then listen to this clip.
Crypto. It really is a magical experience. Read the John Pfeffer.
Here we go.
Crypto. It really is a magical experience. I read the John Pfeffer paper again last night. Someone was asking me about it randomly, and that was years ago at this point, an institutional investor's take on crypto assets. And I was reading it through the lens of Ethereum, and it's really come to pass that Ethereum is competing more on the monetary asset front than the technology front at this point. And maybe that's the basis for competition here, where you're seeing all these alt L1s emerge. Crypto.
Yeah, go figure. Funny how that worked out for them, right? Then Cowboy Crypto doesn't miss much. Tyrone Laban joined the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance from JP Morgan just 4 months after the SEC sued Ripple. Here he is. JP Morgan. What a coincidence. And then look at this. Senior MA senator with inability to pass, senior Massachusetts senator with inability to pass laws is upset that her playbook of shadow legislation via unelected puppets like John Donnenberg is coming to an end. The architects of Operation 2.0 are having their masks ripped off. This is Elizabeth Warren right here. Let's call this Supreme Court ruling on Chevron what it is, a power grab by the far right to benefit the wealthy. Yeah, I need that with her getting off her private plane. And then we'll finish up right here. Everybody listening to my voice needs to hear this. It makes I'm stunned when I listen to these guys like they're just figuring this out. But our country, ETHgate was just a symptom of the corruption that our country has been going through. These guys, for whatever reason, they're supposed to be smart guys. They're just now figuring. It's just dawning on them what we're really witnessing. But it's worth every word because they do finally get it, and you need to hear it.
My honest takeaway is that that person, though, is no longer really in charge. And I think that that was very troubling for me. And it actually makes the last sort of 6 months make a lot more sense. So I thought the fact that we could not get a response from the White House I took it a little bit actually personally. I was wondering why, for someone that had been such an ardent supporter, I couldn't even get an email back when I was consistently asking them to be on the pod. And now I see that it wasn't just one single act. It was part of a holistic strategy. It was the same strategy that boxed RFK out of the Democratic primary. Because could you imagine if this event had happened when he had to debate RFK in the Democratic primaries? It would have been exposed then. It's probably partly to explain how the law has been used in New York State, whether you want to call it lawfare or not, but it was a very directed partisan action. And so all of these things are now 3 data points that are really important. You will not come on an open format show like ours to just speak openly. None of us were going to attack him or try to corner him or box him in. You prevented other people from actually challenging you and directly asking questions of you in the Democratic primaries. And then you try to put political pressure on your opponents. All of that is systematically about a group of people that are unelected who are trying to control democracy. And I think that that's the most troubling takeaway from this. I don't think that you should take away from last night that Joe Biden had a bad debate. I think what we should take away is that there is a person who should be allowed to transition into the sunset and be celebrated for what he's done. And instead, there are people that, frankly, at the margins are acting pretty unethically, and at the limit is actually acting somewhat diabolically to prop this person up so that they can keep power. For example, you've been in situations where you would expect the team that runs a company to be able to stand up and say the CEO is not in a position to run this company anymore. That's what you would expect if there's good governance and honesty. You know, what was Ron Klain doing, as an example, when he was doing debate prep? Did he legitimately believe that Joe Biden was prepared for this or mentally capable of actually doing this?
No, he was, and the fact that he was defrauding America is what he was doing.
Or allowing his legacy to be destroyed after 50 years, I think is really tragic. You probably do have a lot of people outside the United States really questioning what is going on in the greatest country in the world right now, that this can even happen. And the people that you thought were so anti-Trump, right, that they would do anything to make sure that Donald Trump was unelected, well, they're actually not that anti-Trump, they're just pro-power. Because the thing that they care more about than their hatred of Donald Trump is their desire to stay in power.
Let's just put it plainly. The Democratic Party is a collection of interests who want to remain in power. The Democratic Party is the party of government. Its goal is to allocate money and power from the government to the collection of interests who back the Democratic Party. In other words, it's basically a collection of interests who want to loot the republic. Well, obviously, no one's going to vote for that. So they have to make it about something else. They choose a figurehead. They talk about how this is about saving democracy. They basically invent hoax after hoax, lie after lie to basically maintain their power. And I think what's happened is the mask has come off. The whole thing, the whole shell game has been revealed. It's obvious that Biden was always a puppet for these interests who are hiding behind him. And now it's all being exposed.
All being exposed. I mean, that's these guys finally. I'm shocked that it took them this long to figure out what these people are up to. Now, in DAIXRP.com, here's what we're going to do. Everybody's wondering, well, yeah, Biden's going to step down and all this. But he and his wife are going on, oh, no, they're still campaigning and all this stuff. I'm going to tell you exactly. I'm going to show you exactly why they haven't stepped down. And I'm not saying they won't, but it's going to take, before they step down, it's going to take probably a payoff and many assurances. And I'm going to show you why. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family. You want to see why Joe Biden and his wife don't want to step down? If I were them, I wouldn't want to step down either. Here we go.